Hola, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes a todos. Thank you for joining us today for our 9th annual Changemakers Building Power, Building Texas. My name is Greisa Martinez Rosas. I use pronouns like she, her, and ella, and I'm currently serve as the Executive Director of United We Dream and United We Dream Action. I am a documented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed, a proud Tejana, and I will be your MC for today. So many of you are probably used to this by now. I know we've been in Zoom land, but before we get started with the program, let's do some Zoom tech stuff and make sure that that's out of the way. So today's event will offer English and Spanish interpretation. To access, please click the little globe interpretation icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you can select your preferred language. Make sure that you stay on that channel throughout the event to hear the entire program in whatever language you want to experience it in. El evento de este día va a ofrecer interpretación en inglés y en español. Y entonces, si puede acceder, haga clic en el icono del globo que está en la parte de abajo de la pantalla de Zoom y seleccione el idioma en que usted quiere oír esta presentación hoy. Asegúrese de permanecerse en ese canal durante todo el evento para que pueda escucharlo en cualquier lenguaje que quiera. For those of you joining us via Facebook Live, what's up? Good to see you on Facebook Live. And if you also need interpretation for today's event, we will drop the link on the Zoom in the chat so that you can join the Zoom link and have the interpretation access that you need. Please feel free to join the Zoom webinar access interpretation function to select the preferred language that you want to have. Para las personas que nos están viendo a través de Facebook, si necesitan una interpretación para el evento de hoy, hagan enlace en Zoom en la selección de chat en Facebook Live. Y no dude de unirse a nuestro Zoom para que usted pueda tener también acceso a la interpretación que vamos a escuchar hoy día. So, before we start, we're going to make sure that the Spanish translation is working. So can people on the Spanish channel let us know in the chat if you can hear the translation? Let us know. On the chat, if you can see the translation, ponga un sí on the chat. Ah, qué bueno. Such good work. A big shout out to everyone that's working the background to make sure that that happens. Thank you to all of you. So, fighting for justice for our communities also means having a strong commitment to language justice. And that's what you just witnessed today. For Workers' Defense, it embodies what it's in its work every day with their members and its same belief that we hold at United We Dream. So UWD is the largest immigrant youth-led network in the country, fighting to build power for and with undocumented communities to win real power for our communities, to win real policy change for everyone, all working class families. And I stand proud, as United We Dream members stand proud to stand as allies and supporters and big fans of the Workers' Defense and your membership base to build power and build Texas. And that's what we're here for today. So to kick us off, I want to please help welcome Emily Tim, a co-founder, co-executive director of Workers as Friends Project, someone that I deeply admire, that has been part of my trajectory as I've grown up in organizing. So Emily, welcome us into this space.
Thank you, Greisa. It is so great to see you here this morning with us. So you are a clear example of the power that we're building here at Workers' Defense. As a young organizer in Dallas, Greisa volunteered with Workers' Defense over 5 years ago and is now the executive director for United We Dream, fighting alongside our members to win immigration reform. Thank you, Greisa, for joining us today and hosting this year's Changemakers. My name is Emily Tim, and I am the co-founder and co-executive director of Workers' Defense Project and Workers' Defense Action Fund. I want to thank all of you, including our sponsors, for being here with us today. We couldn't do this work without your commitment to our mission. I also want to thank Flavia Arzate, one of our members and owners of Flavia's Kitchen. So if you ordered lunch, you're enjoying her delicious food. We have a few people in the room to recognize. First off, we want to thank our members who are in attendance. Our members are the heart of our organization. So thank you for being here with us today as we recognize our fight alongside you to improve the lives of immigrants and low-wage workers in Texas. I also want to thank this year's host committee for making sure this event is a success and getting all of you here today. Thank you all. I'd like to recognize the elected officials who have taken time out of their busy schedules to be here with us. Electeds in the room, can we have you say hi in the chat for us? Thank you. Your presence here today sends a clear message that you stand in solidarity with our community as they continue to build power for those building Texas. It is so great to see such an incredible group, both new and familiar, come together to support Workers' Defense, even if it's in a virtual room. And this year in particular, we've seen incredible growth of our membership and our supporter base, which is because of the tremendous work of our members and our staff who continue to elevate our mission to new heights. I have been with Workers' Defense since our inception, and I have seen how we have changed the lives of workers in our state. When we saw that the federal and state governments were failing to protect workers with a basic human right like a water break, we stepped in and organized to pass local ordinances that guarantee the right to water for workers. Throughout our history, we've assisted thousands of workers to fight back and recover their unpaid wages. Over the past 2 years, our membership has grown as we've distributed millions of dollars in emergency cash assistance to help families in crisis during the pandemic and climate disasters. Workers' Defense Action Fund has helped to elect candidates like Austin City Council member Greg Casar, Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza, and ACC Board Trustee Stephanie Garikanian to office. In Central Texas alone, our Better Builder program has improved working conditions for over 35,000 construction workers on $2 billion worth of construction projects. And in Harris County, we are poised to create the first essential worker board anywhere in the country to set standards to keep essential workers safe on the job. Together, Workers' Defense Project and Workers' Defense Action Fund are transforming the state of Texas. We are leading the fight for a more progressive Texas that centers working families and people of color. Our members and our team are doing groundbreaking work on so many fronts, leading policy fights at the state legislature and at city halls, innovating to create good construction jobs through our Better Builder program, fighting for a pathway to citizenship for 11 million immigrants, and shaping the local and state narrative around low-wage workers. And finally, building a powerful base of immigrant workers, construction workers, and their families who are leading this work. And our work has not gone unnoticed. Have you heard that we were featured in Vogue this year? We landed a feature in one of the biggest publications on the planet after our members' response to Winter Storm Uri. It was incredible to see our members, construction workers, immigrants, and their families, and yes, the labor movement in fashion. And really, this is a testament to the organization that you have helped us build since 2002 and the power our members have built across the state. This is such an exciting moment in our history. We are leading locally, statewide, nationally on the issues that matter to working families across Texas. We are changing the game. Our members are building Texas and building power. So thank you all for being here today to learn more about our work. It's only right that we would center the voices of who we are at our core, and that's our members and their stories. And here's Johnny Ramirez's story about how he is building Texas and building power with Workers' Defense. Thank you.
This is a quadrant project of the University of Houston. This project started back in 2019. It's a project with the value of $123 million. There were a lot of things going on while we were here. One of them was the wait staff. I remember some accidents. They actually forced us to work while it was raining. There was a lot of mud. We had an accident just right passing this hallway that is right here, carrying some really heavy wood. And the former state didn't do anything about it. They use one phrase, hey, if you don't like it, there's the door. If you leave, tomorrow I just have to get the phone and call somebody else that was willing to do your work, and even for a lower rate that we're paying you right now. University of Houston is a public university, so it's money of the community involving. So we got the right to get paid what we call scale that we were not getting paid for. You're ending up doing a lot more things than what you're supposed to. So the companies actually are making way more money than what they're actually paying us. Why would we have to be here today on one of the biggest institutions in Houston that had morals and values, but they're doing totally the opposite? Work Defense approached one of our coworkers. And after that is when I actually went to an official meeting and see that was already a claim set out for wage theft. That's what I actually started my relationship with Work Defense. Everything started with us trying to talk to the companies, and the companies didn't want to listen to us. So we went up the next scale. We were talking with the main contractor. The main contractor kind of laughed at us at the same time, like, who does this guy think they are? Like, they're not going nowhere. Like, nobody's gonna listen to them. So we went to the main head of the project, Renee Couture, University of Houston, the president. But Ms. Couture says that she didn't have control over it, that it was not her responsibility, that it was the contractor. The contractor says that it was the subcontractor. The subcontractor said it wasn't his responsibility, it was the other part that they hired. So it was one point where they were passing the guilt between one each other. It was like, okay, so who's gonna hear us now? Who's gonna listen to us? But Work Defense had made an entire plan to work.
We are the ones sweating. We are the ones that are getting the wage stuff. So you need to sit down with us. We demand you sit down with the workers and get the view from the first hand.
And I remember during my lunchtime crossing the street and join my coworkers and the organization for the first action, and I had my foreman right there just staring at me with a really like angry face.
UFH, listen to me. To us, the workers, the students, the community, we demand justice for workers.
I really felt proud when I started taking part of the actions with the other workers. There were students, there were teachers. That was a breaking point. It was when they actually started paying attention to us. We saw that change.
How is it that this institution has been disregarding, trampling on and one of society's most essential tenets? You work and you get paid. That's right. These workers worked. They didn't pay.
It feels amazing to know that you have an entire team that can support you and that you can rely on. And that's what I feel with Work Defense. It's taking me to do things that I never expected, and I was like, I liking it. So who knows where you're gonna end up with PDL. I'm happy to be a part of Work Defense. I'm proud actually to be part in that actually got to know that this organization.
Oh my God. The power, transformation,
This is
magic and miracles that happen here in this moment. I'm still sitting with what Johnny said. We are the workers. We are the ones who sweat. We demand justice for workers. What an incredible story. Thank you so much, Johnny Ramirez and the Workers Defense Organizing Team at the University of Houston. The labor abuses that you just heard about, like wage theft, are just one of many that we have seen across the state of Texas. Parisa Fatehi Weeks, Workers Defense Project Board President, is here to help us share more about the dangers and the real opportunities and breakthroughs that we have to build a better future for workers building in my home state of Texas. So take it away, Parisa.
Thank you, Graysa. And thank you, Johnny, for sharing your powerful story with us. What Johnny shared about the state of the construction industry in Texas is the reality for too many workers, and it's the reason we do what we do. My name is Parisa Fatehi Weeks, or Parissa Fatehi Weeks. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I am the board president of Workers Defense Project, our 501c3 organization. I'm a proud immigrant born in Iran and raised right here in Austin, Texas. And like many of you here today, I deeply identify with and am humbled by the courage of the members of Workers Defense. I moved to the US with my family when I was a young child, and my identity was shaped by our experiences navigating Austin as a family who didn't speak much English. We didn't always have papers, and who had a front row seat to the dysfunction of the immigration system. After serving as a volunteer student attorney 10 years prior, I joined the board in 2015 because of this organization's deep commitment to building power within our members, our staff, and our board to fight for better working conditions for low-wage, essential construction workers throughout Texas. I want to remind you what our members face every day in the construction industry. Texas is the deadliest construction industry in the country. A construction worker dies every 3 days in Texas. We do not have a statewide law that guarantees construction workers a break for water and rest, even in 100-degree heat. 1 in every 5 construction workers in Texas experience wage theft. Sit with that for just a moment. These numbers are the trappings of a $100 billion industry in Texas, an industry built and carried on the backs of immigrant workers. And in this $100 billion industry, a construction worker, like I said, is dying every 3 days because protective equipment, clean drinking water, and emergency first aid, these very basic things, remain out of reach for too many workers. This is the unfortunate reality of our construction industry, the one that you see booming when you drive the streets of our state's biggest cities. And if you're angry about these awful working conditions, I suppose that means you're listening and you're taking it in. No worker should lose their life because the system is more interested in profits over worker safety, worker dignity, and human rights. And it's why we thank you for being here today. It takes all of us to continue to build a movement for those who are building our state literally. These are workers who are essential workers. Certainly you've heard our governor use the word essential. Unfortunately, his actions have said otherwise. But our members have always been essential workers before the pandemic and even more today. One of our organization's most innovative programs, the Better Builder program, is about ensuring essential protections for these essential workers on every construction site in Texas. You heard Emily mention that we've improved the lives of workers on over $2 billion worth of construction here. That's $2 billion of a $100 billion industry. So we have so many more opportunities to do this work, and we need your help to get us there. With the Better Builder program, Workers Defense creates a pathway for more construction projects to adopt protective standards for all workers in their subcontracting chain. Standards like living wages, OSHA safety training, workers' compensation coverage, local hiring goals, and independent third-party monitoring. And what's so brilliant is that these are worker-led standards, and they're the changes our members want to see on construction sites across the state. We worked with local workers to get their recommendations of common sense standards that would increase their safety and improve their ability to provide for their families while continuing their careers. Better Builder standards are practical to implement, and they have a huge impact on the safety and economic security of those who labor in the Texas construction industry. So when you are investing in Workers Defense, you're investing in programs like the Better Builder program. You're investing in our members, you're investing in our organizing model that's building community power to deliver solutions on the many challenges that we can't even imagine yet. This work is just one piece of the puzzle. You'll hear a little later from my friend Luis Malfaro later on how Workers' Defense Action Fund is doing the same in the halls of power across Texas. So here comes the ask, and I'm honored to make the ask. For those of you who are able in any way, shape, or form, for those of you lucky enough to have fared well during the pandemic, for those of you who know that this is going to take all of us chipping in, we ask that you contribute whatever amount you can to lock arms with our members, lock arms with our powerful, creative, hardworking staff, and lock arms with us in calling for fairness, safety, and economic security for all of our neighbors. Donate $20, $50, $100, $500 for those of you who can, and much more. Know that you are transforming the lives of workers like Johnny in Houston, whose story we're still sitting with, like our members in Austin, Dallas, and across Texas. You will be creating that next generation of leaders in our communities who are fighting to be recognized and treated as the essential, dignified workers that they are. So thank you for joining us today. Our team is dropping links right now in the chat to make your donation. Click those links. We really want you to be a part of this effort. Make a donation and be a part of building power for those building Texas. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to let you click on those links and chip in whatever you can. And I'm going to transition because I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming one of our champions and critical allies at the Texas Capitol, Representative Jasmine Crockett. Representative Crockett represents the 100th district of the Texas House. She's a civil rights attorney, a staunch progressive, and a champion for working families across the state of Texas. Please join me in welcoming Representative Jasmine Crockett.
Well, I want to say good almost afternoon to everyone. It is floor time, crazy floor time. So I apologize if I seemingly am a bit spastic because we are obviously dealing with more crazy Texas legislation. Today, we decided that we want to beat up on trans children. They have decided that they wanted to go after our trans kids. Oh, this is probably the 4th or 5th time since we started these sessions back in January. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. You really don't understand the power that you have and the difference that you're making in this state. And I know it feels like we're being beat up left and right, but let me tell you, it would be so much worse if we didn't have your voices, if we didn't have your fight. Organizing really does matter. There are only 150 of us in the Texas House, but man, when you get behind one of us, you're able to amplify our voices on your very important issues. So let me back up just a little bit and give you a quick overview if for some reason you have missed this nonsense that started back in January of this year. And so as many of you know, we are currently on our 3rd special session. When I was sworn in January, no one could have prepared me for a session that would essentially last all year long. The highlight of this session, and I truly say highlight because it really was an actual highlight instead of the many lowlights, was when we decided to walk off of the House floor. When we left the House floor back at the end of May, that was the first time that we decided to break quorum. When we did that, it was a rallying moment for all Democrats, the moderates, the progressives, and the others. It was a true rallying moment. We all felt like we had accomplished something for once this session because after all, we had to deal with the anti-abortion bill. We had to deal with permitless carry. We had to deal with them attempting to pass terrible workers. It was a workers preemption bill that they were trying to pass as it relates to preempting cities from doing great things to protect our workers. We were able to kill that bill. We were able to kill a terrible bail bill. We were obviously able to kill the issue as it relates to voter suppression. So we accomplished something great. in the last 2 hours of our regular session. But unfortunately, we knew what was coming next. We knew that eventually the governor was going to call a special session because we did not sit around as they decided to continually beat up on us and ignore not only our voices, but the voices of the people. So many of you showed up time and time again to make sure that you testified, to make sure that you let what is supposed to be a representative government know how you felt about these policies. But time and time again, your cries were ignored, as were ours. And the only language that they seemingly understood was a quorum break, because that was going to stop them in their tracks as they continued to try to push regressive policies upon us, anti-people policies upon us, especially anti-working family policies. So we walked out, we killed the bill. We only had 2 hours left. What's next? We get called in for another special session. We go in for that special session. We wonder, some of us at least, I never had a doubt, but there were those that wondered, maybe they realize that we're serious and maybe they will back up. Maybe we can start getting to the work of the people of Texas. Maybe we can work on fixing the grid. Maybe we can work on expanding access to healthcare. Maybe we can do those things that make sense, such as making sure that we protect more of our kids as relates to these mass shootings. Because after all, this was the first session that we were going to have post El Paso. Maybe we could finally get to the nuts and bolts of what really matters in this state. Sadly enough, we saw again that they just plan to steamroll us and ignore not only our voices, but yours too. This time, though, we definitely had the will of so many other Democrats to leave this state and even risk being arrested if that's what it took. And so we went to DC. We stayed in DC for approximately a month. And then he called another special session. So we started to come back home. But the deal was we weren't supposed to go back to the floor. There were those that decided that they just could not hold out for whatever reason. They were itching to get back to the floor. It was at that point in time that we once again had to face this workers' preemption bill, this bill that was going to say that even if a city decided, hey, we're going to mandate water breaks in our city, if you are going to work a construction project in our city, this is what we require. We don't know what anybody else is going to do, but this is what we require. Sadly enough, they felt like that was too onerous. We had worked on things such as the Crown Act, and here recently, we see in Harris County actually passed a Crown Act. But here it is that they really wanted this workers' preemption bill yet again that would prevent cities and counties from implementing their own provisions that would protect those in their areas. Because obviously, the state of Texas doesn't care about protecting individual people, especially working people. We were able to kill that bill, or they were able to kill that bill because I actually stayed away. You know what? Let me correct that. I came back because I actually got a call. I got a call asking me to go on the floor. I only went on the floor for workers here in Texas. I really wish I would have worked a little bit harder to get more people off the floor, but nevertheless, because quorum had been made and because this bill was coming up, there was going to be an amendment. And there was this thought that there was enough bipartisan support on this amendment. This amendment would have allowed, at least for the water breaks. Sadly enough, people thought that Republicans would honor their word, and they didn't, just like they've done so many times before. And so this amendment failed. It failed. I was here just to make sure. It was the only time that I actually turned on my desk since the quorum break, was to make sure that I could do whatever I could to protect you and so many others. And so my desk was turned on, the amendment failed, but ultimately what happened is that bill was killed. There was a good point of order. And so thankfully, we did not have to deal with it. And thus far, we've not had to deal with it in this particular session. But one thing that I've learned is that this wasn't the first time this bill had come to the House floor. They have been introducing this bill year after year after year, session after session. So it's important that you keep up your fight. It's important that you hold elected officials accountable, because we work for you, the people, not the other way around. And I know that with redistricting upon us, They are trying to make sure that they minimize the voices of the people. They are trying to pick who it is that they will serve versus allowing the people to choose who it is that will serve them. But I am fighting every step of the way. I can't do it by myself. So it's important that you stay in this fight. It's important that you know that people like me are listening. I get calls, I get text messages as certain bills are right here on the floor. When I tell you that your donations matter, they really do. I know that you just saw the donation links, and sometimes people probably wonder, where does this money go? Well, it goes to make sure that people like me know what's going on. When I tell you that I get briefings, I get one-pagers, they run points of order, they do all kinds of things to make sure that I know, even if for some reason my team doesn't know, they want to make sure that I know as much as I can to make sure that I am equipped to give the best fight that I can on the floor. And so that's where your money goes. It goes to making sure that that research can be done. It goes to making sure that they can invest in politicians that are going to do what's right and not do what's political. I want to just say I thank you and I love you. It has been such a hard session, or session after session after session. But every time that I felt like I've been beaten down, I think about people like Workers Defense. And I think about, this is why I got into this fight in the first place. It was never so that everyone in the house would love me or like me. But I can tell you one thing, at this point in time, they at least respect me, because they know that I will never back down from a fight. And they know that when I get on that back mic, I know exactly what I'm talking about. They know that I'm going to have the facts, and they know that a lot of times I'm going to have the people. So many times you guys have rallied together when we call and say, we need help. We need you to show up, and you do. And I thank you for that. I love you for everything that you do. I am always here for you. And we're going to keep fighting for a better Texas, not just for me, not just for you, but for generations to come. Thank you.
We love you too, Representative Crockett. So grateful. I also say that I'm a little bit biased. You represent me in my home district of Oak Cliff. So thank you for all the work that you do.
Yes.
And that on behalf of my family and all of our loved ones in our district. So we certainly know that you're making some good trouble as we continue to fight to build a Texas and a country that actually reflects our values and the issues that Workers Defense is fighting for. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we're going to take a short break in our program with some entertainment. Who's ready for that? Earlier this year, Workers Defense members took on creating this beautiful art installation inside of the Texas Capitol to honor workers who continue to put their lives on the line throughout this pandemic. We said immigrant, essential, resilient. That was the name of the piece, created alongside Nopalistas and the members of WDP throughout the state. Please enjoy this video of that art installation and music by Rosendo Segovia, a member of Workers Defense Project in Austin. Take it away.
Soy un constructor de hogar y escuelas. Construyo tu ciudad y carreteras, puentes, hospitales y viviendas. Y aunque no me veas construyendo, estoy por Texas. Soy un habitante de esta tierra, con sangre de bisonte en la pradera. Libre, sin frontera y sin bandera. Y aunque no lo veas, construyendo, estoy por Texas. Soy un constructor de tus jardines, palacios, aeropuertos, lo que quieras. Soy el constructor que menosprecias, el emigrante que tú quieres tras las rejas. Soy el constructor de tus escuelas. Mi cuerpo es de sudor, metal y arena. Visto de mezclilla y herramientas, de casco y de chaleco, aunque no veas que trabajando estoy por Texas, construyendo, estoy por Texas.
Wow, se me enchinó la piel. Immigrant, essential, resilient. That is who we are. That is who our communities are. Muchas gracias, Rosendo, por su canción. Thank you, Rosendo, for your song. I want us to take a moment to honor the workers, the family members of our staff, our members, and any of you and your loved ones who have lost their life throughout the pandemic in unsafe work sites or in the border. Let's take a moment of silence to honor those lives. Let's take a deep breath in and out. One more in and out. We do this for our people, we do this for ourselves, and we do this out of love. So we are now excited to honor one of the brightest minds in the Texas labor movement after 8 years of commitment to the workers' defense. I'm really honored to have followed her trajectory, to be a little piece of her work, and to join us in honoring Stephanie Garakanian. We have Arash Farasat, a Workers' Defense Action Fund board member and active leader. Welcome, Arash.
Thank you, Grisa, for that introduction. Hello, my name is Arash Farasat. I'm a member of Workers' Defense. I'm on the board of directors for Workers' Defense Action Fund, and I'm also a member of our COPE committee. The COPE, or Committee of Political Education, has the responsibility of screening candidates and things like ballot measures to see whether or not we will support them or oppose them. I first came to Workers' Defense in 2012 when I had experienced a wage theft at my job. And I was looking for a group that where I could learn about workers' rights, somebody that could help me. And it was fortunate that Workers Defense had just opened up an office there in Dallas in late 2012. And I went to one of the first meetings, and it was the only group that was doing this kind of work back then. So it was fortunate for me. And, going to the meetings, I am naturally a very shy person. I have a hard time speaking in public. And it was hard for me to speak about, the injustice and the anger that I was feeling about what happened at my job. So I was not able to talk. But being in a group with other workers and listening to their stories, it helped me to come out and talk about it myself and speak up for myself, and assert my rights and my dignity as a human being and a worker. And those meetings, those juntas, they helped me to develop. And over the years, Workers Defense helped me to learn how to become an organizer as well. I learned to have one-on-one meetings, do group meetings, and I also learned how to develop actions, protests. I was speaking through a microphone at bad employers. And I also learned about power structures. I learned about how our government works and what influences, politicians and organizations. And I learned all of that at Workers Defense. So Workers Defense really helped me to develop, as a person, to come out of my shell and also become a smarter and more effective organizer over the last almost 10 years. And today, Stephanie, she was by my side for most of that development, most of that growth, and by the members' side for our organization's growth for that whole time. Stephanie was a major architect of our paid sick leave program, where we won paid sick leave policies in Austin and San Antonio and Dallas. She fought against the anti-immigrant racial profiling SB4 law, and organized our lobby days, where we actually learned how to confront our elected officials. Most people don't get to do that, but because of those lobby days that she helped to organize, I first learned how to confront people with power, and that was really important to me, and that was really special for me. And when SB4 ended up passing, we didn't give up. She helped to develop our strategy for the Freedom Cities policies, where we went and passed policies within individual cities so that people would not be arrested unnecessarily and put in through the deportation grinder. So, she's fought tirelessly. And this year, even the state has been trying to take away a lot of those policies to preempt them. And she has led the strategies in stopping them so far successfully. So Stephanie, I can't thank you enough for your 8 years here. Your work here has been very important to me. And I know that the members, most of our members, feel the same way. And I'm honored to present to you our annual Changemakers Award.
Arash, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to receive this award, and am especially touched to receive it from Arash, who was actually one of the first members that I had the chance to meet when I first started at Workers Defense in our organization's Dallas office. As I've concluded my time with Workers Defense, I'm honestly just still brimming with pride and with gratitude for the time that I was able to be a part of the organization, and for the work that we were able to do together over the last 8 years. I wanted to just share a little bit about what I love about the organization and what I already miss about it. I love that even though Workers Defense is now a statewide organization, it's much larger and just more strategic and has much wider wings than when I first started with the organization. But I love that even though that we have grown, we are still a scrappy, determined organization that is absolutely unapologetic in its conviction that Texas workers and immigrant families deserve basic dignity and respect. I love that Workers Defense is unafraid to confront people in positions of power, whether that's employers, real estate developers, elected officials, who are trying to deny workers the respect that they deserve, things like living wages, basic safety protections or safety training, having a fair shot at being able to support their families or live without fear of deportation. And I truly love the tenacity and the righteousness and the fire of our members who just show incredible courage. I think Johnny was such a beautiful example of that for his involvement in the campaign at the University of Houston, but there are so many incredible leaders like Johnny inside the organization. And I can't tell you the pride that I would feel when I would, step into an employer meeting to reach a settlement agreement or step into a city council meeting and have this group of fired up, passionate, courageous Workers Defense leaders at my side, wearing their t-shirts, just daring that employer or that elected official to tell them that the scraps that we are fighting for are not, are too much. And so I more than anything just have such gratitude and pride. I have to say that when I was able to do this work with our members at our side, I never doubted that we were on the right side of history. We, however ambitious the campaign we were working on, or whatever the odds that we were against, I knew that what we were doing was just and good, and that history was on our side. So thank you so much to Arash, and thank you to our members, and thank you to the organization. I look forward to cheering for the work that Workers Defense will continue to do in the next 8 years and beyond.
Bravo, Stephanie! Woo! I know that it's a big congratulations to you. I'm so proud to know you. Thank you for all the work that you do on our behalf. And thank you for the spirit that grounds you in our work. So now you've heard from Arash on how important it is to build political power that is grounded in people, power that is grounded in action, but also getting workers involved in the political and legislative process. So we're going to hear directly from Ana Isabel Garcia. She's a member in Austin on how Workers Defense Action Fund has opened the doors of the Capitol to her and to do exactly just that, advocate for our people.
Yo soy trabajadora doméstica, me dedico a limpiar casas aquí en Estados Unidos, que yo estuve así, yo buscaba algo que no me quitara mucho tiempo, que pudiera estar con mis hijos. Bueno, yo en PDL fue la pandemia que me trajo a PDL, porque yo estoy en una organización que dan apoyo económico, préstamos para las mujeres del hogar, que queramos emprender un negocio. Entonces ahí cuando se vino la pandemia, pues nos quedamos de que, ok, ya invertí mi negocio, pero no hay dónde vender mi producto. Y la directora de ahí, vean, nos posteó en nuestra página y nos dijo, ¿saben qué? Proyecto de Defensa Laboral está ofreciendo algunas becas, tienen que aplicar, tienen que hacer una aplicación para ser elegibles. Entonces es lo que hicimos. Entonces ya cuando me dijeron que sí era elegible, me llamaron para decirme qué día podía pasar por mi beca. Entonces yo súper emocionada. Entonces dije, no puede ser, qué rápido, y será cierto. Dije, bueno, ok. Pero ya en PDL, yo en las membresías, ¿verdad? Nos invitaban, oh, vamos a tener una acción, vamos a tener quién miembro quiere participar. Entonces fue como yo me involucré. Primero que nada fue en el comité legislativo. He ido a varias testificaciones. En la primera me temblaban las piernas. Buenas tardes, miembros del comité. Mi nombre es Ana Isabel García. Soy miembro activa de Defensa Laboral. El día de hoy estoy para testificar en contra de la propuesta de ley SB1. Y a la vez no podía creerlo porque no domino el idioma inglés. Y mis documentos, no tengo documentos, entonces dije, no puedo creerlo, que esté aquí peleando y discutiendo por estas leyes que nos, como comunidad, no nos benefician. Uno comunidad común y corriente no alcanza a ver esa magnitud, pero hasta que está uno adentro. Entonces fue lo que a mí me impactó y me gustó muchísimo, ¿verdad? De que como cosas que uno no está de acuerdo o injusticias que uno ve, puede cambiarlas.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Anna Isabel. Thank you, ma'am.
Y ya, de ahí, no me he podido separar de PDL. Se pone uno, como persona indocumentada, se pone uno en charola de plata entre las personas empleadores. Entonces, uno llega con esa mentalidad, es lamentablemente de que lo que agarre de trabajo, o sea, lo que me paguen, o sea, con esa perspectiva llegamos, ¿verdad? Por el mismo temor a que no queremos, ¿verdad?, que ser muy vistos por las razones obvias, ¿verdad?, de como indocumentados. Entonces, nos permitimos muchos abusos laborales. Entonces, fue lo que PDL me trajo, ¿verdad? Mucha libertad de poder decir no, de poder sentirme apoyada. Me siento muy orgullosa y muy honrada de poder estar representando a mi comunidad, que muchas veces somos trabajadores que no tenemos el conocimiento, tenemos miedo de poder alzar nuestra voz. Entonces, en Proyecto de Defensa Laboral nos inculcan, ¿verdad?, nos apoyan a poder participar en este tipo de acciones. Entonces, cuando estuvimos aquí debatiendo, ¿verdad?, esa ley SB14, que es una ley muy dañina para los trabajadores, quitándoles sus derechos para tener un descanso. Entonces, gracias a PDL por esa confianza y ese espacio y que nos abren este tipo de puertas. Estamos aquí con la intuición de que íbamos a lograr algo grande, de que juntos como comunidad y alzando nuestra voz podemos lograr y hacer grandes cambios. No hay límites de que lo que sí es el Capitolio, seamos nuestra voz y queramos hacer valer nuestros derechos, vamos a contar con el apoyo siempre del Proyecto de Defensa Laboral. Yo soy...
¡Wow! ¡Bravo, bravo! Qué poderosa, Ana Isabel. How powerful you are. Aunque nos tiemblen las piernas, even if our legs or our voice shake, sin papeles y sin miedo. Oh my God, it's such an honor to know you. It's such an honor to follow you. Gracias, Ana Isabel. So that is what is Workers Defense Action Fund all about. How are we leveraging this power that Ana Isabel is building each and every day with PDL? Well, let's hear it directly from Luis Malfaro, Workers Defense Action Fund Board President, on exactly that. Take it away, Luis.
Thank you, Gresa. What powerful testimony we heard from Ana Isabel, speaking directly to elected officials in our state about the changes she wants to see here in Texas. Thank you, Ana Isabel, for your leadership here at Workers Defense and for fighting the good fight inside the Capitol to ensure that we are building a better Texas. I also want to thank Best Wishes Studio for their wonderful in-kind contributions over many years. They were responsible for filming and producing those wonderful videos that we saw of Johnny and Ana Isabel, two of our many powerful members. My name is Luis Malfaro, and I'm the board president of Workers Defense Action Fund. Our Action Fund is our 501c4 entity. I started my career over 30 years ago as a teacher in Austin, working predominantly with immigrant families and children as a bilingual teacher. And one year, one of my students' fathers was killed in a construction accident, leaving behind 3 young children and a widow. There was no Workers Defense Project then. And I remember the injustice that I felt for that family. Well, my friends, this has been a remarkable year in the Texas legislature for all the wrong reasons. You know, when the 87th came into session, our members and our allies actually had high hopes that after a year of devastation from a pandemic, that our state leaders might do something meaningful, like pass legislation to help working families or address the electrical grid or provide workers' compensation and benefits for families like my student's family that lost a loved one. But we've been bitterly disappointed after a regular session and 3 sessions of the legislature. Just 1 month in to the regular session, we had the disastrous winter storm. And it brought to the forefront once again what it means to have a failed state government that doesn't seek to protect its citizens or its families from crises. So Workers Defense Action Fund is building long-lasting infrastructure to engage historically underrepresented Texans in the legislative and electoral process. Texans like Ana Isabel, Texans who have to live under the laws and policies of a government that too often doesn't take their interests into consideration. And we've built one of the largest voter mobilization programs in the state, galvanizing voters around our worker-centered agenda of issues and economic justice. And this year we've mobilized constituents on all fronts in the hopes that perhaps we could pass workers' comp legislation or protection for our power grid or stronger workplace protections so that we don't have another health crisis, real legislation. What we've gotten instead, well, Representative Jasmine Crockett laid it out for you. The most regressive agenda we've seen in decades: voter suppression, abortion bans, anti-transgender legislation, redistricting, and of course, led by our governor, an anti-worker agenda. So we've got work to do collectively, my friends. And you heard from Emily and Parissa, you heard from our worker members. We've had some real victories, some real wins. Many of them have come at the local level, at the city level, and the county level. And you heard Ana Isabel reference Senate Bill 14, an attempt by the state government to claw back what little gains we've been able to make around decent work and decent treatment in the workplace in cities across this state. 10-minute water breaks seem to be too much for our current government. This is the shame of our state, and it is the challenge and opportunity of our organization to work to create a Texas where everyone can thrive. Workers' Defense Action Fund is putting those boots on the ground, and we need your help. We know that 2022 will be a critical year for all of us in Texas, and we will be electing a new governor. We will be electing a new lieutenant governor and attorney general and working to flip the Texas House. And we need your support to make that happen. The fall of 2022 is upon us, and it will take significant investment right now to help us build this people-powered machine that can lead us to these victories. We've watched state lawmakers roll back our rights to vote, our access to the ballot box, and to try to further suppress communities through voter repression and through gerrymandering. And yes, we're in court as a plaintiff suing the state of Texas for that anti-voter legislation that Governor Greg Abbott signed. We will fight to protect our right to vote, and we can win in 2022. Workers' Defense has a proven track record of winning. Let's do it again. So we need your help. This is the first time that we've opened up Changemakers, not only to support our wonderful 501c3 Workers' Defense Project, but for the first time to ask for your direct support for Workers' Defense Action Fund. So we're dropping into the chat again, your opportunity to kick in. And I'm gonna give an extra challenge to our union brothers and sisters who are on the call. As a union member for over 30 years myself, I was always proud when my union kicked in money to help support this work. And I knew that some of my dues money was going to support that, but it also let me off the hook individually. So I'm asking our union brothers and sisters on this call today, pull out your own credit card and cut us a check. You know it's going for a good reason. We need your help. We can't do it without you. Thanks very much for your support.
Thank you so much, Louis, for calling us to action. Check the chat. Those are the links that y'all need to ensure that you're answering the call to action. We're nearing the end of this program. And if you still need an extra nudge to make a gift today, now is the moment. Hoy es el tiempo. So take it away, Emily, and close us out.
Thank you, Gracia. And thank you to everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. This has been a year full of so many challenges and opportunities. I've been inspired again and again by the resilience of our members. They have led a thirst strike at the state capitol to protect the basic rights to water breaks. They've planned beautiful and inspiring actions to demand immigration reform for their families and for millions of immigrants across the country. They've supported their communities to recover from climate disasters and COVID-19 by providing millions of dollars of direct assistance to families in need. And they have found time to create beautiful art like you saw in our Immigrant Essential Resilient exhibit at the Capitol. And all of you have been part of this fight as allies, as advocates, as supporters. We can't do this work without you. If you are inspired, as I am, by the creativity, the hope, the resilience, and the power of our community, please give generously to Workers' Defense Project or Workers' Defense Action Fund. We're excited to announce that we are just $2,000 away from fundraising $100,000 at this year's Changemakers. This is just incredible. We are breaking fundraising records for our organization. So thank you to everyone who has already donated. And if you haven't, this is your chance to help us raise $100,000 to improve the lives of workers throughout Texas. We know that we do not have an easy road ahead. Texas has a long way to go to live up to our progressive values and to ensure that all workers have dignity and respect they deserve at work. In order to win, we have to live our values both inside and outside our organization. We have to build strong, unbreakable partnerships and coalitions. We have to be smarter and more coordinated with our resources. And we have to be firm in our resolve that we can build a Texas where workers and immigrants can live without fear and all families can thrive. Can we count on you to join this fight? Thank you so much for being with us today. We are grateful to be in this fight alongside all of you. Take it away, Grace.
Well, thank you, Emily. I could not have ended this place with a lot, with better words than you just did. The members of United We Dream and I are so honored to be standing shoulder to shoulder with PDL. Together, we are an amazing group of freedom fighters and are so grateful for the leadership that you provide, Emily, to the team. We are undocumented, we are unafraid, and we are here to stay. And so as we thank you, all of you, for joining us today, for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here, for showing up. Thank you to all of the caretakers and home workers that made that possible for us today. I want to shout out all of the workers defense team that made everything so beautiful, everything so possible today. Thank you to all of the people that dug in deep. And I know that by the end of this day, we will definitely reach the $2,000 so that we can ensure that we met our goal. So please, please make sure that you're doing that. It is the absolute honor of my life to continue to be with all of you, to deliver citizenship for millions of people. And we know that citizenship it will not be the end of our fight, that we're fighting for racial justice, for workers' rights, and our ability to live with our dignity. Y con eso, we hope that you join us for the trivia game that will happen after this. Pero muchas, muchas gracias, con mucho, mucho amor. Nos vemos pronto. Bye, everyone.